£5,880.13.
Okay, I admit it. What I did in the last video wasn't cool, it wasn't funny, and it was childish. But you can't say it wasn't entertaining. If you missed the video, then it's in the top right-hand corner. But if you didn't, then you know that I risked it all on the most expensive rebuild that I've ever attempted to date. This 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. Oh god, is this going to be one hell of a rebuild, and we've already learned so much. In the last video I explained why I bought the Aston, where I bought it from, and how much I bought it for. And we managed to get it back here with a little bit of help from Aston Martin themselves, but my main concern, despite the damage on the front end, is that I bought this car as a non-runner. I thought the reason why it wouldn't start was to do with the pyro fuse, which is usually the case on a crash damaged car. This fuse normally breaks when the airbags blow out. But I've told you guys that a million times now. Here is the broken pyro fuse, which I jumped the connection from here over to here on, but still I had no luck. Nothing. Now we also learned that under the cover of pretty much all of these Aston Martin badges are, well, AMG badges. The engine and a lot of the parts on this car are from a newer C63, which helped me a lot when running the diagnostics on the car. When plugging in the diagnostic tool and running an auto scan, it scanned the car as an Aston Martin, but it didn't seem to get any communication with the ECU. But I manually override that and selected Mercedes C63, which it seemed to like. The diagnostic tool then brought up a fault regarding the crash data and gave me the option to reset it, which of course I tried. And after resetting it and trying to start it, we managed to get 1/2 of a crank. I picked up a jumper pack, connected that to it, and you know what? Roll the clip. We can do this. Okay, start engine. Please. Yeah! Yeah! We're moving and we started resetting it. It is basically a Mercedes. Come on, we've got a running Aston Martin Vantage now, and it sounds sick. What a relief, one running Aston Martin. Oh my god, if only you guys could feel the relief that I felt when this thing started up, and I still feel relieved, but also so excited now this thing is running. Now actually, inside the expansion tank, there is no coolant, so we can't actually run this for too long. Which means we've got a coolant leak somewhere, which doesn't surprise me because the front contains a lot of radiators, which, well, has taken a fair amount of the hit. Now I've since found that the Aston has 3 driver settings. S for Sport, which is your standard setting. You then have Sport Plus, which opens the exhaust valves, and you also have Track, which I'm not sure what it does, but it changed the look of the dashboard and the exhaust sounds incredible. V8 twin turbo madness. The dash is going crazy. It does not want me to rev this. Now that we know the Aston starts, we can deep dive into it and find out what parts that we need and what parts that we can and can't order from Aston Martin. So remember, Aston Martin can't sell us everything unless we're a registered Aston Martin repair centre, which quite obviously we're not. But one thing that we can pick up from any local parts place is a battery for it. So that's the first thing I'm going to be replacing. The battery's in a pretty fiddly place right behind the driver's seat, and you have to remove the fuse box just to get to it. But all in all, it's a pretty easy job. Now just before I start the car, I wanted to put a little bit of water in there just to see if it held it. But no, it came straight out. So it looks like we're starting this thing without any coolant again. Now the next step is to get the Aston from outside and into the unit so we can begin rebuilding it. And there's only one small issue, and that is that one wheel does not turn with the steering, as you can see here. So I kind of had to improvise. And just before I pulled it into the unit, I noticed this. This sort of clear film which is over the paint here is called paint protection film. So the previous owner obviously looked after it, and it should have protected the paint pretty well. So before I brought it into the unit, I wanted to give it a quick wash with the MA detailing stuff. And this got me thinking. How many businesses are out there with amazing products that have not put them on an online store? But luckily the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace, is here to help with that. They offer everything from online stores to marketing tools and analytics. Squarespace well and truly is the all-in-one platform to build and run your business. Just take a look at all the MA detailing set, there's loads of it. but there's no way I'll be able to sell this without a website. And just look how easy it is. Squarespace have got loads of templates to choose from. Once you've got your template, you can go in, you can drag and drop your own logo in there. Then adding a new product is as simple as this. Drag and drop my photo in there, select the price, select the stock quantity I have, add a description, and on top of that I can switch between a desktop view and a mobile view as well, which is sweet. And in the meantime, the Aston is looking clean as ever. That paint has came up an absolute treat. But if you need a website, go to squarespace.com or just click the link in the description box below. And when you're ready to launch, use code Matt Armstrong, and that's going to give you 10% off your first website or domain name. Right, now we need to figure out how to get this thing in the unit. So we've got the Aston just about in the door of the unit. And then we have to give a shout out to Malibu Performance for letting us steal the wheel skates. You can put them underneath the wheel, jack the wheel up, and then just slide the car around. It's as easy as that. Now the Aston's going to be going on the smaller blue ramp because we have the Lamborghini in the big ramp, which is, well, fairly poorly to say the least. But we'll get onto that in a future video. Okay, so finally the Aston is touched home inside the unit and we can begin the actual rebuild. The one thing that I want to start off with is to figure out why this wheel is, well, not connected to anything. And I have suspicions that maybe there's a broken track rod end in there, but let's get this wheel off and we'll investigate further, and then we can start stripping this car to bits and find out what we need to buy for it. Oh my god.
Is that light?
They are so light. This is the lightest wheel, 19-inch wheel I've literally ever felt. It is, oh my days. They've got to cost a fortune. And they're looking good nick as well, so could be onto a winner there. So, as I suspected, we have a broken inner tie rod. The actual track rod end seems okay and the ball joint seems fine. We just have snapped off the inner tie rod, which is pretty lucky actually because all the suspension arms look okay, and I can't imagine the suspension arms being cheap. The brake disc looks okay, the brake pads are good, the caliper's good. It looks in really good nick actually, but just the inner tie rod to replace. So I got straight on the phone to the local parts shop to see if they can order an inner tie rod for the Aston Martin. And whilst I waited for them to get back to me, I started stripping apart the rest of the damaged parts on the front. Now during this time they actually gave me a call back to say that they can't get an inner tie rod for an Aston Martin, no one lists them. So it's a main dealer only part. So I had to call Aston Martin.
Thank you for calling Aston Martin Nottingham.
It's a front inner tie rod, it's the driver's side, the F side.
Pretty confident that's not sold separately.
Oh.
So I'll double check for you now. Yeah, so the cap wheel is separate.
Right.
But the rest of that is all the rack. And the rack on one of these is £5,880, 13 pence plus the VAT.
Jesus Christ, okay.
Right.
Cheers mate.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Okay, so we've got a first problem here. So yeah, you heard it right. Aston Martin don't sell an inner tie rod separately. You have to buy the full steering rack. So I went ahead and started removing the inner tie rod just to see if I could see any part numbers that were on there. I was hoping that if I could find a part number, I could maybe compare it to something that they used on another car. And when I got the inner tie rod off, there was some numbers which were stamped on there. And if these numbers didn't work, I was just going to measure the inner tie rod and see if I could find one similar. But literally, I think after about 5 minutes of Googling that part number, I think we've found one. Just from a quick Google of the little part number that was on this inner tie rod, it seems they use the same inner tie rod, well I hope they use the same inner tie rod as a Jaguar XF. So I'm going to call up the parts place now with an XF registration, order an inner tie rod, and then fingers crossed that will work.
My God, can't take my eye off you.
So that's one Jaguar XF inner tie rod on order, which costs £16. We just have to wait now to see if it fits. The next step is to start stripping apart this whole front end, get all the damaged parts off so we know exactly what next we need to order. Now there's a lot of parts which make up this front end, and I've got a feeling that we might not be able to cross-reference all of them because a lot of them will just be specifically made for the Aston Martin. But we'll see how we get along.
See behind that broken smile, nice, sweet, smooth, like cocoa bread.
Now it's safe to say we've definitely repaired worse. And if this was an Audi, a Volkswagen or a BMW, this would be a nice, quick and easy job. It's just the fact that it's an Aston Martin, and that's what's going to be the hard part about this whole build. Okay, so I think it looks a lot worse than it actually is, but you can see why these cars actually get written off. Now, we are slowly getting there. There's still a lot more damaged parts that need to be taken off, like the arch lining and the bonnet, and there's also a wing that's damaged on the other side as well. But we've slowly started stripping apart the front end. But an accident damage repair centre, if they were going to repair this under like insurance circumstances, they'd have to replace everything like for like OEM. So example, that inner tie rod that we just spoken about, that couldn't be replaced with the Jaguar XF tie rod, although it is exactly the same. Well, we hope it's exactly the same. They'd have to get a steering rack from Aston Martin, which we all know is £5,800 plus VAT, then the labour cost to fit it, and then that's just even the start of things. You've got the rest of this to sort of go on with. Here is another perfect example here. Remember the pyrotechnics fuse, which at the minute we're bridging this sort of circuit across so we can get it started? Well, this thing is here. Now, if you remember in the first episode, I told you that Aston Martin won't actually sell to the public parts which are to do with safety, like the crash cans on the front and some parts with the airbag. They'll only sell those parts to an Aston Martin registered repair centre, just because they want their cars to be top notch when they're back on the road and not repaired by, well, someone like me. But I did call them regarding a pyro fuse, but it comes as a whole unit like this, and this thing from Aston Martin is £560. And this is kind of annoying because we don't actually need that full part, we only need this little fuse here. Well, I actually managed to find that full pyro fuse kit on eBay secondhand for £289.99, which is still pretty expensive, and we only need that fuse part. But again, we're using our brain here, and on the actual pyrotechnics fuse, the actual part that we need, there is a small part number, and that part number relates to a fuse which is also used on Audi Q5s, Maseratis, BMW 3 Series, 5 Series, 6 Series, 7 Series, and the best bit about it, you can buy it separately off eBay for £27.99. We've just got to hope that all these cross-referenced parts all work, and we won't know that until they turn up. Now, there's a fair few damaged radiators on the Aston Martin. The one in front of the passenger wheel isn't leaking, but it is damaged, and the oil cooler in front of the driver's wheel seems okay. But the rest of the radiators and the aircon rads, well, they seem to have taken a bit of a beating. The main radiator here, which is huge, looks okay, but at the bottom it's actually leaking coolant. So we're going to have to order one of these. And just to keep track of all the parts and the expenses on this build, I've got myself a blackboard and a special shout out section on the side for people that help me out, like Mallory Performance with the wheel skates and Aston Martin with telling me how to knock the car into neutral without starting it. Now, there's another huge question here, and that is the chassis bent? And if it is, the build is going to get that much more expensive. Now, pretty much most of the chassis on this is aluminium and unboltable, which is why I had a fair amount of confidence in this, but I won't really find out the good or bad news until I remove these front crash cans. And the news is good. Well, it's good so far. So this is what they call a crash can. This is a sort of crumple zone. This bit here is designed to sort of squash up when involved in a front end accident, but I don't think the impact was really that way. It was more of a that way accident, and in this instance it sort of broke away from the weld, but it's a good job it has broke away from the weld, because if that weld held up, then we could be talking a lot more damage than we originally thought. So this is where the crash can bolts to on that side and on that side, and because it broke away from the weld, I'm thinking that this part should still be in a straight line. If that weld held up, then it could have pushed it all to one side, but you can see there's a lot of brace in here, which is all straight. This is an unboltable part as well, and there's no kinks, there's no bends or anything in that. So as far as I can see from my eyes, this is all in a straight line, and all this aluminium sort of subframe is all unboltable, but you're talking like engine out job to change it. But again, I'm no professional and I don't claim to be, so saying that the car's not been knocked out of geometry just by looking at it by eye would be like a silly claim. So it's definitely going to go and have an alignment when everything's all bolted back together, but actually by looking at it, it really doesn't look that bad. I think it's going to be little parts like this broken piece here that's going to end up jumping up and biting me, because we can't cross-reference that to another car, and well, it's an Aston Martin only part because it's only made for this chassis, and well, we all know how Aston Martin prices go. And also from such an amazing response from the last video, which I can't thank all you guys enough for watching the video, liking it and sharing it. And also, if you're new here and you've recently subscribed, welcome aboard. The previous owner of the Aston Martin actually reached out to me, and we have the photos from the accident. But it looks as if we ran out of time in this video, and I've got a very broken Lamborghini to be getting on with. So again, thanks so much for you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Oh!
There's some chunks. Go around the lip.